of my mouth and meditations of our hearts be acceptable in your sight, O Lord, our strong rock and Redeemer. Amen. Well, this week, when I was preparing for today and I kept reading the lessons over and over, I kept trying to preach on the gospel, but the letter to the Ephesians kept calling me more and more. So you're not getting the gospel, you're getting Ephesians on this, but really you're getting the gospel, if you know what I mean. Because in that letter, right from the beginning, right at the beginning, it says, remember when? Paul says to the Gentiles in Ephesus, remember when? Do you remember when they called you the uncircumcised? The uncircumcision called the folks of the circumcision. There was Gentile and Jew. There were the uncircumcised and the circumcised. There were those of the covenant and those outside the covenant. There were the godly and the heathen, those who were far off and those who are near. Do you remember when? Do you remember when that wall of hostility existed between you? Do you remember when there was that wall of division and separation between you? Do you remember when? Jew and Gentile, circumcised and uncircumcised, those of God and the ungodly, the hostility, the separation. Do you remember when? So with that, I began to remember when I turned back the clock in my mind to 1974 and 1975. I was a boy in Kentucky. I was 9 years old in 1974. Don't blame me because I'm young. But anyway, 1974, I was there. And what was going on in Kentucky at that time was when I went to school in Jefferson County, there were two school districts. There was a city school district and there was a county school district. And just the way it happened to work out, well, not just the way it happened to work out, but the city school district was predominantly African American, great majority. And the county school district was primarily white, great majority. So in 1974, the court said no more. There will be no more city school district and county school district. There will be one school district. There will be unification, there will be desegregation, there will be integration of our schools. Well, holy moly. You can know how that went over in some parts of Kentucky. Well, some parts of anywhere. So suddenly the Klan, who was lovely and wonderfully in their hole somewhere, came back out. And came back out of the shadows and their hole, and they were front and center with all their garb and their hate speech and their racism and their anger, and buses were set on fire and crosses were burning and riots ensued because we like the separation. We like the Jews and the Gentiles, the circumcised and the uncircumcised, those of God and those of not, those who are far off and those who are near. We like the wall just the way it is and keep it right where it is, because that's the way we like it. Well, they went on and did what they were going to do, and the schools were integrated. And at my house, too, my dad got scared, got angry. Because, my gosh, I worked my entire life to get out of that place. I worked everything I could to get you out of there, to get you here. I don't want you over there. I want you here. And I like that wall there because I worked hard to get over that wall to get you here. And I don't want you going back there. So I was just a boy. But he was scared. And he was angry. Because he didn't want to go back there. He certainly didn't want me to be there. So at that time in our neighborhood where we lived, because we lived in a nice suburban white neighborhood of some affluence, by the time within 2 years of busing, every kid in my neighborhood that I knew went to private school, me included. So off I went to Kentucky Country Day School, because that's what we did. So you say, oh my, Paul, holy cow, Kentucky, of course. Well, yeah. Well, it's everywhere. It's everywhere. And we can say, oh, well, that was 43 years ago. Oh, we've come a long way since then. We've come a long way since then. And indeed, we've come a long way since then. But don't kid yourself by any stretch of the imagination, it still exists. It's alive and well. Because the reality is, in so many ways, we like to live segregated lives. We like to live separate lives. We like to live our lives of distinction and separateness, and we like our walls because it makes us feel good. So we build walls of stone and steel. We build walls of heart and soul. We build walls of stone and steel with barbed wire on top to keep prisoners in. We build walls of stone and steel around our neighborhoods to keep people out. We build walls of stone and steel to the middle of a town or village or on the countryside to make sure those people stay there and those people stay there because that's the way we like it. Because the fear is if there is integration and unification and desegregation, that there will become the contamination and the disintegration of our civilization. Felt that? We're afraid if we get them together, there's going to be contamination and the disintegration of our lovely civilization. The civilization of my family, how I like my family, how I like my town, how I like my church, how I like my country, how I like what I like, and I like it like this. And I fear if we take down whatever wall of stone or steel or heart and soul, and we put it all together, there's going to be contamination and disintegration, and there goes my civilization. And I don't want it. And they're there. They're there. There are walls in here right now. Now, we don't have any big physical walls in here, but I guarantee you within this church, within every church, every community, there are walls of heart and soul that divide us. Because that's the way we are. We build walls around our preferences and our small-minded prejudices. We build walls around our conceptions and misconceptions. We build our walls of isolation. We build our walls that cause us to lead life of alienation and separation, which leads to our soulful suffocation. And we don't even know it. So we go on and we live our lives, not seeing the physical steel and stone and barbed wire, but all the while just as real, just as strong, just as tall, just as impenetrable. We build our walls of heart and soul, keeping us safe. For God forbid the integration. For there comes the contamination and disintegration of my own lovely civilization. So let me build my wall of isolation. But little do I know that my soul is now on the brink of suffocation. We don't have any idea, but that's what we do. So then I remembered another time, and I went to 1987. If you remember President Ronald Reagan standing, you know where, in West Berlin looking at a wall. And President Reagan said, Mr. Gorbachev, if you really believe what you say, if you really mean what you say, if you really mean for freedom and liberty and for new way of living for your people, if you really believe it, then what do you say, Mr. Gorbachev, what? Tear down that wall. Tear down this wall. If you really want freedom, if you really want life, then this wall cannot be there. So tear down this wall. So out we got our sledgehammers and we got our bulldozers and we got our big wrecking balls and tore down that wall. Then we walked in and we tore down the wall. We got the wall down. Now we're going east and west and we're back together. Here we go. But we must not be fooled. Just because the wall of stone or steel is not down, the walls of heart and soul are just as real. And the work is far, far from over. Oh, we've come away, but there's a way to go. And our Lord Jesus Christ says in this lesson, do you remember when there was Gentile and Jew? Do you remember when there was the circumcised and the uncircumcised? People of the covenant and people of not, those who were far off and those who are near. Do you remember when Jesus Christ came and broke down the wall of hostility that divided you? Jesus Christ came and broke down that wall that there may be a new humanity. A new humanity. A humanity of one. No longer two, but one. You're one in me. One in life. There is no longer separation and alienation and isolation. There is now unification and sanctification and salvation and celebration and liberation in me. We now have a new way of life and a new way of being and a new humanity, and that which was far off is now near, and that which is now separated is brought together. And those strangers are now friends, and hostility is replaced with peace. That's the world I'm looking for, he says. That's a new humanity that I bring. Do you remember when? Well, no longer now. We have a new way of being now. Now. A way of unification. A way of sanctification and salvation, a way when we come to the table in celebration of life, that we may be free to live and cast off our suffocation and breathe fully into a life of liberation. Liberation in our Lord Jesus Christ. We've still got work to do, because there are walls that still stand of steel and stone, and certainly, Lord, help us, walls of heart and soul that are just as tall and just as strong and just as impenetrable at times. But no sledgehammer nor wrecking ball will take them down, but only the grace and love and goodness of our Lord Jesus Christ working through our souls can allow us the safety to let those walls come crumbling down. So I pray, sisters and brothers, that one day we too will have another remember when. And we'll say, remember when? Remember when those walls stood? Remember when those walls of stone and steel stood high and strong? Remember when those walls of heart and soul stood tall and strong? Remember when those walls? And then by the grace of God, those walls came tumbling down. Those walls no longer stand. You remember when how grace and glory broke those walls down, and now we stand liberated, unified, celebrating, rejoicing. Oh, remember when? By the grace of God, those walls shall not come again. Oh, by the grace of God, those walls will never be built again. Someday we can say, I pray, remember when? Those walls shall never come again. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, amen.